Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So today's video is long awaited. I haven't done a video in a very long time, not because, you know, anything that, you guys have done, very few that watch my videos. YouTube's not like a main thing for me, it's not a job, it's not for the money, it's not for the fame, it's simply a hobby. So I post videos just not frequently, like, but I want to. But I was inspired by a lot of people. So today's video is going to be my testimony. So my testimony starts on May 11th, 1984, when I was born at 12:14 in the afternoon at Centinela Medical Center in Inglewood, California. I was born to a mother that didn't want me in the first place. Um, I was the second oldest. Well, I am the second oldest of six. I have a sister who's 4 years older than me. So my testimony begins at 7 months old, and my sister was 4, and my biological mother left my sister and I both in the crack house. I'm not sure exactly how long because I was a baby and my sister really doesn't remember all of the facts and everything. But from there, my sister went to a foster home and I went to McLaren Children's Center. And right away, my sister was placed with my grandfather and his girlfriend, which became our foster mother. Technically, she'd be grandmother, but foster mother. And they took her at first because they were both working and she was in school, so it wasn't like they had to like stop working or anything. But they didn't want me right away because I was a baby and I was really sick. So at 11 months old, they finally decided to take me, and the doctor said that if they hadn't taken me, I probably most likely would have died. And I mean, I thank God for my grandfather for deciding that that was the best thing for me. So we lived in Inglewood for 3 years, and then we moved to Ontario, where I spent majority of my life. My life was awkward for a long time. I thought my grandfather and my foster mother were my parents until I was, I think, 10 or 11, when my sister and my aunt, which is my biological mother's sister, decided to plan a overnight visit with my aunt, but my biological mother ended up being there, and I was told via my biological mother that she was my mother, which confused me a lot because I was living a lie. And after going back to my grandfather's, going home, I resented them, my grandfather and my foster mother, a lot for not telling me, where I really belonged, and I hated them for a long time. After that, I started going to counseling because I was confused, and I wondered why she left me and why we were living where we were living and she was living where she was living. After that, we didn't go to our aunt's house for a while because my grandfather was upset, because that's, how I found out. But we visited her, I think, one other time. We went to her house, we visited her. She did my hair, everything was cool. I had a baby brother, you know, but this was baby brother number 2 because she had 2 kids prior to this. So there was 5 of us, and but I didn't know what the other 2 were, but I played with my baby brother. And then we were supposed to go back out to her house like maybe like a month or so later, and she was in jail because she stabbed my baby brother's father, and that kind of just threw everything off. And I didn't want to trust her, and I I didn't want to have anything to do with her. So to push a little forward, seventh grade, my grandfather gets really, really sick and he passes away. From there, my life changed. Like, my foster mother went from being the motherly person to being the most horrible person you could possibly ever imagine living with someone like that, you know. She went from, taking good care of us and treating us well and making sure that all our needs were met to being the person that we just became slaves to her. Like my sister and I, she hated us, she called us a lot of names, she made, comments, telling my sister and I that we'd be nothing like her. We'd end up being like our birth mother. And it hurt, and we had to deal with that for a while. And for a long time, I hadn't told anybody but very few people, like close, like my sister, my aunt, that at 6, my foster brother had sexually molested me. It was once. It never happened again, but once was enough for me. And it made me not trust men, period. Like, I just, I became really closed and I never wanted to be really touched anymore by anybody. But he began to molest my sister for years, and he would come in the room. I remember, like, nightly he would come in our room and he'd grab her leg, but my sister and I at the time slept in the same room in the same bed. So at times he would grab my leg and I would like cringe, like, is he coming for me? But he would always go and take my sister. And for years it happened, but after my grandfather died, my sister told my foster mother that what was going on, and she called my sister a liar. She, they began to argue, and my sister, said that she was going to leave, and she was going to tell everybody what was going on in the house, as far as the mental and emotional abuse. So before my sister left that day, my foster mother pulled a knife on her. And that's the side I'd never seen of her. And it scared me because, if she'd pull a knife on her, she'd sure pull one on me. So my sister left that night, and my sister's boyfriend was also in foster care, and his social worker, we all had the same social worker. So the next morning, my sister told her boyfriend's grandmother what was going on, and just basically just spilled all the beans of all of the trauma, all of the abuse, all of the sexual abuse, like everything that happened, And the grandmother had called our social worker, and our social worker literally came out that same day. She came to my school and interviewed me, and I told the truth. There was nothing else to do but to tell the truth. And so when I got home from school that day, there was bags, just like black trash bags, packed with my stuff in it. And I was confused. I was like, well, what are you doing, I kept asking my foster mother, what are you doing? And she's like, well, you're leaving. And I was just like, where am I going, And she's like, you're going to another home. And I mean, I was heartbroken because, even though I had endured abuse for so many years, that was my home. Like, I grew up there. Like, that was where I belonged. So, sorry, I'm trying not to cry. My social worker finally came, and she took like maybe 2 bags, and I had like a stuffed animal in my arms, and I left. And my new foster home was maybe 20 minutes from where I grew up, so it wasn't like, I was confused. I didn't know where I was at. But I got settled in my new foster home. It was okay, I wasn't used to being around other people, so it was really, really, really strange for me. And my sister didn't come until later that night because she had school, and she had like other, like, she was at her boyfriend's house, so they had to bring her all the way over. So when my sister got there, I was angry. Like, I was beyond fumed that my sister could do something that stupid. Like, I was mad. Like, we had lived with this secret for so many years that the fact that she would open her mouth and say anything, just, it hurt me. So my sister came upstairs and, we started talking, and then it got to the point where it literally got physical, and I completely lost my mind, and me and my sister start fighting, and I was determined to kill my sister. My sister most likely was determined to save herself, basically keep me from hurting her because I was angry. So I threw my sister down some stairs. It wasn't like a lot of stairs. It was like 6 steps because it was like stairs and then a landing and then more stairs. So I threw her down the stairs. She came back up. She threw me down the stairs. I came back up, and behind, as you come up the stairs, there's like a balcony that looks over to the first floor. And I ran at my sister because I was going to literally throw her over. But the social worker was still there, and the foster mother came upstairs, and they broke up the fight. They made me go in the room. They made my sister go in the foster parents' room until, everything kind of settled. So everything, was settled. I stayed there for a couple of weeks until one morning I got tired of being there. And I said some things that I shouldn't have said to the foster mother's daughter who was pregnant. And I left. I got on my bike and I left. And it was pouring down rain, and I went home because that was the only place I knew to go. So after riding my bike, which seemed like eternity, I got to my foster mother's house. It was pouring rain and I was soaking wet, and she, gave me, warm blanket. She dried my clothes, and she had to call the cops. Otherwise, it would have been considered kidnapping. So the cops came, picked me up, took me back. But when they got back there, the foster mother didn't want me there because she said I was a threat to her daughter. So they moved me, and I'm going to skip past a lot of stuff because it's a lot. I went through 11 different foster homes, placements, group homes, 30-day holds. I pretty much got kicked out of majority of them because I was angry. I didn't know how to express my anger. And the last 2 places I was in, one place was a group home, and I began to get somewhat settled, but it wasn't enough, until, I started going to church. I got really into church, and I really enjoyed it, and I found somewhere where I felt like I was okay, but eventually, that group home kicked me out, and I ended up back in McLaren where I had originally started. And there were a lot of staff there that had worked there for that long, 14, 15 years, and had remembered me there as a baby. So that was, surprising. While I was there, I went to a doctor's. I finally had doctor's appointments, and they found out that I had umbilical hernia. And same day of my umbilical hernia surgery, I had a court date. And I usually was there at every court date, but this one I couldn't be at because I was having surgery. So I had surgery, and from court, I was being released back to my foster mother. And so from the hospital, I had to go back to McLaren because the paperwork hadn't all been submitted, so I wasn't able to leave from the hospital. So I went back to McLaren, and I stayed overnight, and the next day I was free to go. And if anybody knows McLaren, it's like a prison. There's walls, there's kids, there's cottages, there's just craziness. So I went home, and I felt okay. It was awkward. It was really different because after being in so many places for 2 years, 2.5 years, different places where you're constantly, under somebody's watch, you can't do anything you want to do, it was scary, and I didn't know how to cope with it. So I attempted to commit suicide. Not one of my proudest moments, but I did. Um, I overdosed on ibuprofen, but nothing happened, obviously, because I'm still here. I didn't tell my foster mother at the time that I did it. It kept me up all night. I had a really, really bad headache. Like I was like wide awake, you know, and I didn't say anything because the next morning when, she was waking up, I was barely falling asleep. So I didn't say anything. But I got to the point where everything was falling back to normal. I became the slave of the house again, sorry. Um, and I felt unloved. I felt that she didn't care. So I started to isolate myself again, and this was right before my 10th grade year because I missed my ninth grade, but it was technically my ninth grade, but at the school they would consider you a 10th grader because of my age. So before I started school, I attempted to commit suicide, number two. And this time was Tylenol rapid release, and I think I took maybe 25, 26 pills, and that almost killed me. Um, I remember feeling really, really dizzy. My skin color changed to like grayish. I was really lethargic. I couldn't throw up. I couldn't do anything. And I truly felt that I was going to die. But sometimes people do things that they regret. And I regretted it because when I started feeling really bad, there was nothing else I could do. So I woke up my foster mother and I told her what I had done. And she was like, well, get dressed. Let's go to the hospital. And so I got dressed and we went to the hospital. And she told them what I had done because at that time I was to the point where I was going to pass out. So I wasn't talking. So they took me in the back and they gave me the little charcoal stuff that you drink that kind of coats your stomach. And as I was drinking that, I can remember my foster mother sitting next to me telling me how stupid I was and how if I was going to kill myself, I should have took more or I shouldn't have woke her up. If I didn't want to be here, I should have taken more. And I can remember laying there crying because I had already felt bad enough that I had done it, but then there were constant reminder that she didn't even want me. So it was hard. During that time of her, sitting there not being any form of comfort, the hospital social worker came in and asked her to leave the room so she could talk to me, and she did. And they asked me what was going on, and I explained somewhat of my story, but not everything, because I was scared if I had told the entire truth, like what would happen, like where would I end up. So I didn't tell like the complete truth. So she asked me if I needed a break, and I said yes. And so they put me in a mental hospital for about a week. So after that week, I got out and I felt okay. You know, they assigned me to a therapist, so I go to therapy, a psychologist. So while I started doing all that, I started school, and I they had to put me in a special class because they thought that since I had missed my ninth grade year, there was something definitely wrong with me, which wasn't anything wrong with me, but I had my first IEP with my counselor, and one of the first questions they asked you was like, well, what do you want to be when you grow up? And at the time, I wanted to be a veterinarian. And my foster mother jumps in and she was like, please let them know, please let her know that she needs to reach for goals that she could actually achieve, which basically just tore me down because it was like she didn't believe in me, that I was too stupid to become what I wanted to be. So I I doubted myself for years. Majority of my high school years, I played dumb. I played the role of the idiot. Like I hated myself. I played that role and I played it very well, But junior year, I began dance, and that became my life. I did dance, I did drama, and I did art. You know, that was first semester. Well, the first trimester, I did that. Second trimester, I did dance again. I did track and field, and I did water polo. I found stuff that would just keep me busy, that would keep me from being at home, because when I was at school, that was where I felt okay. Once I got home, that's when I knew that I was once again a caged animal. That's what I felt like, you know. But I started doing okay in school. Second trimester, I opted out of water polo and I did like a TA for a class with kids with disabilities, which really kind of boosted my confidence because I was helping kids that really were special needs, even though that's what everybody was claiming I was. Senior year, first trimester, again, I did dance, I did foods, and I did sewing. And lo and behold, foods became my passion. So my senior year, it started off well. I had 3 classes. First and second were TA classes. Third was foods. Fourth was senior English, and fifth was dance. And after fifth period, I was able to leave to go start college. And my foster mother doubted me. She figured, I wouldn't go to college, but I did. She figured I was too stupid to do anything, but I succeeded in that. I was doing things and I was proud of myself. Um, in May, around my birthday, um, I got a letter from my teacher, my foods teacher, and she had sent in, you know, an application for me. She gave me a scholarship, a full blown scholarship to Culinary Arts of America, which is in New York. And I was the one student that she chose, and I was really excited, but I hadn't said anything. I didn't say anything for weeks because I knew once I said something, that dream of going to college, bettering myself would have ended. So I waited. And once I did tell my foster mother, she completely freaked out. She laughed at me. She asked me, how many people do you think go to New York by themselves? Do you think you can really do it? You can't do it. You're not going. You can forget about that. And right before I graduated from high school, I stopped going to college at Chaffey College that I had been going to that entire year because I was depressed. I felt dumb again. She literally kicked me at my highest point. So I graduated with a 3.4. I was proud of myself, but it was never good enough. So after I graduated, I literally became a mole. I say that because I never went anywhere. I stayed inside the house. I didn't do anything for a good 2 years. But after that, we started to go to church again. I started getting the hang of, being around church, and I grew up before I went to group home and foster homes. I grew up in church, so that was my thing. So I started back going to church, and even if my foster mother didn't go to church, I had a reverend that would pick me up daily, like every Sunday every Wednesday, whatever day we had something at church, he'd pick me up. And so I started going to church faithfully every Sunday. I started praise dancing. I started singing the choir. I started Bible study. I was teaching Sunday school to little kids. And that went on for a good year and a half. And then after that, my foster mother decided that she wanted to move. So we moved to Menifee. And once I got to Menifee, it seemed like everything went right back downhill. I was no longer in the element of going to church every Sunday. I was no longer in the element of being around people that, boosted my confidence and that loved me, like legit loved me and cared for me. I moved out here in Menifee. I still live in Menifee. And I began to work because what else was there to do? So I started to work. And I would work on Sundays because there were other people that wanted to go to church on Sundays, and I didn't want to go to church on Sundays. I didn't want to do anything. I didn't have anything to do with church unless I could have went to the church that I grew up in. So I did not want to go to church. So I worked. And I'm going to push past a whole lot of stuff because this is going to be the longest video I've probably ever posted in my entire life. But after that, I started going to this church called Greater New Hope. I'm not going to say what the location is because it doesn't matter. I started going there. The first time I went, I praise danced to a song that was a song that I needed because I felt that I needed that song, and its song is Lord Make Me Over, so I did that song. The first time I danced there, everybody, like, all the girls, they hated me, but I didn't really care because I was used to being hated. So it wasn't like a big deal for me. So that was my only solo I've ever done there. I started dancing with the group. Once they got to know me, I started dancing with them, and I started working with the person that I live with now. I became her. First, I was just her babysitter Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Sorry, and I think I did that for like a month, and then after that I ended up moving in with her, and then that's when the mental abuse began to start. But it began to get to the point where I would overdose on Benadryl. I would take Benadryl to basically subside any form of pain that I was having because it just mellowed me out. So after 2 years of that, of getting phone calls from her, telling me, I hate you, I'm not your family anymore, I'm not your mother, I don't love you, they're using you, it even got to the point where she would say that the friend that I'm living with I'm possibly sleeping with her husband, just lies, anything that would get me to cry, anything that would get me to completely break down, she did it. So, that happened for years, and I got to the point where I hated myself again, like all over again. I became severely depressed. I stayed in my room a lot of the time. I didn't do holidays, I didn't do functions, I didn't do Christmas, I didn't do Thanksgiving. I hated holidays because that was time you spent with your family, and I didn't have one, so I didn't care for it. So sorry. So let's fast forward to now. About 2 months ago, maybe, I moved to a different church because I felt that it was better for me, because I was still feeling the same way that I had felt since I started the church 5 years ago, and I felt like I wasn't getting anything out of it. So I moved to a different church, and I went to a revival. That's how I started going there, and honestly, I didn't want to go. I went because my friend asked me to. I hated going to new places because that means, you meet new people, and I didn't want to meet anybody because I'm content being by myself. So the first night of the revival it was hard for me. Um, I cried because I felt so overwhelmed. I didn't know what was wrong with me. I didn't know how to control the emotions that I was having. And um, the prophetess called me up and she said some things to me, and things that no one would have ever known. And it completely like, it made me completely like break down, and I cried. And I don't cry in front of other people because I don't want to see people see my weakness. Because, why? So, after that day, like on the way home, you know, God was talking to me. And I don't think I'm pretty sure I've heard God talk to me, but I never knew who it was. So, I got home and I asked for the lady's number. Didn't know her name, but I wanted to talk to her. And that's not even like me. Like, I don't reach out. So I began to talk to her via phone/text messaging sometimes. And I joined their church maybe a month ago. And like today, I can say that I am a better person. Um, I am learning right now to let go of my past. I know that I have to stop letting people into my life that are going to hurt me. It's been maybe 3 weeks that I stopped talking to my foster mother, and that's one of the best things that I possibly could have ever done besides changing churches. Um, it's bettered me in a lot of ways because I'm gaining confidence that I lost, and that I didn't know what to do with myself for years because I was stupid for years, you know. So now today is December 20th, 2016, 5 days before Christmas. Um, Last year, this is my second year of actually decorating for Christmas. It's my first year, hopefully, that I'll spend with people that I really want to be with. I mean, not saying that I didn't want to be with my friends' family, but it felt awkward because I never really belonged. I don't feel like I belong anywhere, you know, until now. Like, it feels so weird. Like, I found people that, like, love